Hi, this is Regeline Sabat, also known as Gigi. You're listening to Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Ahmad Rashad. Ahmad Rashad is a radio producer, assistant for a TV show, and an upcoming play. Welcome to the podcast, Ahmad.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. So you go by Gigi, I see.
Yes, sir.
I like that. What's up, Gigi?
Hey, how are you? I love it, and I'm so honored to have you here.
I mean, you know, if I had a nickname, I would probably give you a nickname, but I don't have any nicknames. So it's Ahmad Rashad. That's all it is.
Yes,
So,
I'll take Gigi. Now, why don't you start off by telling us about you and where you're from, Ahmad?
well, I am a military brat. So I have traveled all across America. My father spent 20 years in the Navy. He is my hero, by the way, which a lot of people look at him as that. So I salute to those people who see people in the armed services as heroes, because they really are. We need to respect them. But yeah, so I'm a military brat. So the places that that come to mind, like as a kid, is I'm from Virginia and Bermuda, simply because that's where my childhood rests. So whenever I think about something, it's either something that happened in Virginia or in Bermuda. But when someone asks, where are you from? I just say, I'm from America, because there's just too many states to name.
I love it. Now, you mentioned your father served in the Navy. I want to say thank you for his service. And also, did you ever think about serving yourself at any point?
Oh, yeah. I thought about it a couple of times. And my dad would say, like, he's okay with me going into the Navy. We're going to leave the Marines out of this. You know, no Marine jokes today. But he wanted me to go into the Navy. But he really said, hey, if I wanted to go into the Air Force, and he said, go as a commissioned officer. And then the last thing he said, he told me, he said, make sure that is your last resort. Because he really wanted me to pursue whatever passions that I wanted to do. And there was a couple of moments where I was like, you know what, I think I prefer to go into the Air Force, just because I wanted to get that type of training and things of that nature, what the military gives you. So I've come close a couple of times. In the Air Force, you know, they'll let you go in at a later age, you know. So so I waited till like the last day before I said, you know what, I think I'm gonna stick with the entertainment industry. But I did want to work in the media with the Navy or with the Air Force at one time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Now, you are actually excelling in the entertainment industry. Can you tell us more about Power 77 Studios?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, thank you for saying that I'm excelling. I guess when you're in the midst of it, you don't feel like you're excelling in anything. It always looks better on the outside in, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah, so thank you for that. But yeah, so Power 77 Studios is a conglomerate of studios ranging from audio studios, such as a radio station, which I also am the program director of, called Power 77 Radio. So we have a radio station, we have a podcast studio. We're also, we assist people with the music industry. So if you want to record music, or if you need music to be mixed down, we're even in the indie film stage of the business as well. Kevin Offley, he's one of my partners. You can look him up on Internet Movie Database. You can see some of the work he's doing on the indie level. So, you know, we have a conglomerate of studios. 111 Studios is by Kevin Offley. Tim Green with Tim Foolery Productions, he's one of the directors. So if you want to do something, again, with video or movies, commercials, video commercials, anything like that, we do that. And then, of course, we do music, podcasting, radio as well. So Power 77 Studios, we encompass anything in the media.
That is fantastic. Now, Ahmad, tell us more about some of the projects you are currently working on.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, I'll start with things that we're doing outside of the studios, and then we'll kind of come on the inside, okay? So some of the things that I'm working outside of Power 77 Studios, which is still an affiliate of Power 77, we have a TV show that I'm working with. Shout out to Aunt Ruthie. She has a podcast called Aunt Ruth, Dating Truth with Aunt Ruth. And so she also is an actress, and she's a host of a up-and-coming TV show called The Raw Draw, which is a phenomenal concept. It's about individuals who are looking for their soulmate, And so, of course, you're going to be matched by Ruth, who is an actual matchmaker, by the way. This is what she does full time. So, but it's an intense dating experience based off of you looking within yourself to improve. So a lot of these dating shows that we see out right now, this seems like I'm looking for my soulmate. But really the way that Ruth is setting up the show is where you're going to look into your own soul. And then you're going to determine, if you're even qualified enough to even be dating. Like, she's the type that's like, if you're not good enough to date, you need to get away from the dating scene altogether. So she is a really tough cookie. And I love, Ruth to death. So I think it's going to be a great show that we've already started casting for that. And we start shooting the pilot for that in the next few weeks.
Wow. I love it, because you must truly know yourself and love yourself before you can love someone else. So I'm definitely check that out as well. That's super.
Oh yeah. Because Ruth, I call her Ruth, but Ruth, she's a tough one, and she's going to ask you questions and really make sure that, you are who you say you are. So you can't, it's a reality show, but she's going to make you feel real.
Ladies and gentlemen, you hear that? You can't fool his auntie.
No, you can't fool. No, not at all. She is the truth.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Now, Ahmad, diving into some of the challenges that you faced here, can you tell us about your experience, such as fear?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, and this is really good because it'll draw in closer to some of the things that I'm working on internally with Power 77. So when I first started, my business, I had generated a lot of roadblocks mentally, right? Which I think a lot of people have these issues whenever you want to start fulfilling your dreams. One thing that I want to kind of say as a caveat, it's a shame. It is a shame that when we're all children, our parents, our teachers, and people who are older than us tell us these things. You can do whatever it is that you want to. Put your mind to it. You can achieve it. They say, don't give up. You can always try again. Tomorrow's another day. All of these wonderful phrases and expressions that they tell us as children. But then all of a sudden, when you get a little bit older, those same exact people will tell you to give up, right? So you have to realize that to the people who are viewing this program and listening to this program on your podcast, you have these roadblocks because of the hypocrisy of the people around you in the past and current. And it's going to hurt for you to acknowledge that, okay? Because what happens is the way the culture is designed is we're good to go. We can live a carefree life until you become an adult and you have to start taking care of responsibilities. And this is where fear starts to come into play, because once you start getting to a certain age, then society says, well, now that you're at a certain age, you have to have certain responsibilities. And now you need to start, acting your age. So guess what? You need to settle down and get married. You're already married. When are you going to have kids? You should have a house by now. You should have already gotten that promotion in your career or whatever it is by now. You should be you should have a college degree by now. Like, all of these things that have been established by society now creates barriers in your mind, because if you haven't achieved that dream by that time, now you have to kind of start showing your level of success so that society can continue to give you what you think is what you need to be encouraged to have a false sense of security, a false sense of success. Does this make sense so far?
Yes, it does. And I love how you mentioned false sense. So I'm looking to dive deep into that.
Okay, excellent. So the way that I overcome these obstacles, well, fortunately for me, I was already breaking some of those barriers. I had gotten into radio as a kid. So I was like 16, 17 years old. I was already in the music industry. I had started my own business at this time. So I had already started my brand image of, this is a music guy, this is a radio guy, this is a guy who likes to, start his own business. So fortunately for me, I had started walking into that as a kid, because it's easier to start doing that as a kid than it is when you are an adult. What happens is when your dreams doesn't move as fast as you think is going to move, right? So now that you're older and you're still doing that childhood dream, right? So now what do you do? You have to find a way to overcome those obstacles. So for me, it was a little bit easier for me to do it, because when I say, hey, I'm going to go back and do this music thing, I'm going to go back and do this radio thing, it made sense to some people in my corner, because they were like, yeah, you went to school for it, you did this full time. But I still had to overcome some of the other fears, because my passion wasn't bringing in money. And since my passion wasn't bringing in money, now people are looking at me and they're saying, because you're not driving a nice car, because you can't take your wife out to dinner on your own dime, you need to give it up. And you have to overcome those cultural issues, because that's really where that fear is coming from when it deals with your dream. A lot of times these public speakers, they say, you're scared to fail, you're scared for success, you're scared of this, but all of those things are the symptoms, but not the root. The reason why you're scared of success, you're scared of all of that, is simply because society has told you or has given you a timeline on when you're supposed to be successful, and told you what success looks like. And only success can only be visualized by you, and the timeline is between you and God. So you can never give up on what's on your heart. You just have to keep going, no matter how old you are, no matter how crazy it looks. If you believe it in your heart, then you need to continue moving forward. And that's exactly what I did. It was me going back into radio, despite what everybody else thought 5 years ago. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this thing anyway. And to make this long story short, 5 years later, I end up, having a team of over 20 people. I was able to hire 2 individuals on a contractual basis. I purchased 2 offices this year during the pandemic, and my client base from my radio station / studio has grown more this year during the pandemic than any other time in my entrepreneurial life. So if I had listened to what culture was telling me, then I would still be working a 9-to-5 job in corporate America, depressed.
Wow. But you didn't have to be depressed. You didn't have to go through that depression.
No, I overcame it. So the thing is, for someone who is listening to my story and they're like, man, like, that's amazing. Like, I didn't get started in my dream when I was 15, when I should have. Like, that's a harder issue to overcome than the other person who say, I've always wanted to be an artist and draw, but when I became 25, I noticed me being an artist wasn't paying the bills. So now I work in an accounting firm for Hewlett Packard, and now I just do taxes for the rest of my life. You're depressed. I'm depressed hearing that story. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, it's how do you get that person to go back to doing what they love to do? But more importantly than that, how do you get that person to go back to doing art and showing them that you can make money off your art, and put that belief in them so they can do that full time? How do you get that person to that point? And that's the purpose of why I believe I'm on your show today, is to encourage that person, and maybe I can help them out and help guide them, so that they can go live their dream, because everyone can. We live in America, so you can live your dream in America. If you're in a third world country, it's a different situation, because the same gospel can't be preached across the world, right? But if you're in America, or you're in a country where you have access to certain things, whether you're considered a rich part of the country, then you have a God-given ability given by Him to pursue your desires, so that we can do something for the kingdom, period. Because that's what we're here for. You can't help someone who can't. Like, how can you use your show, right, to help someone in a part of Australia, that's suffering? you know, to give them hope and give them life. But you're not going to be able to touch someone in Australia with your message if you don't do this YouTube, right? So, or this podcast. But you can't do it alone because someone in Australia is trying to put up 5G towers so that someone in that part of Australia that's struggling can get on the internet. So then they can learn YouTube, and then they'll find you, and then you can give them hope. That's the reason why when you're living in America, you have to move towards the dream that God put in your heart, because it may not even be for the people here in your city. It could be for someone else 10 years from now that might just pick up on this, that don't even have internet today.
Amen. That is very uplifting. Thank you for sharing that, Ahmad. Okay. Now tell us more about your experience with financial hardship.
Call Dave Ramsey. Call Dave Ramsey. I don't even know this man face to face, but I feel like he's been in my, I mean, like he is like, yeah, like his foot, you know.
Change your life.
Man, I read his money. Yeah, I read his money. I read his book, The Total Money Makeover, and I feel like he stepped out of that book and sat next to me with his hand around my neck. And I feel comfortable saying that because if you listen to the Dave Ramsey show, he talks to you like he is going to DDT you WWE style, you know, like that's just the way he is, like that really tough love. And I remember the first time listening to Dave Ramsey, I said, who does he think he is talking to me like this? And I had that feeling reading the book too, you know? So I'm like, man, like this guy's really offending me. But let me tell you, it took me about 3 times to read the book. About a year, 2 years to listen. So I had to get my butt whooped by Dave Ramsey several times before I started to really get it. And you know what? He'll still rip me a new one, right? Today, if he was over my shoulder. But I am much better for it by using, you know, half of what he's teaching me, right? The other half is just me continuously be disciplined. But let me tell you, the financial issues that I had was trying to deal with my debt and cash flow. And then at the same time, how do you grow a business and not get a loan?
Tell us.
It's like, are you kidding me, Dave? It's like, so I'm sitting here trying to get out of debt, and I'm like, I'm getting ready to start a business, and I'm like, I'm looking up stuff like, you know, pay loan, not pay loans, but like you can get advanced cash based off of your monthly, you know, cash flow. I'm like, I'm going to win, you know, and then I hear Dave Ramsey's voice, do no debt, no debt, no debt, you know, and I'm hearing churches being built with no debt, you know, so I was like, okay. I'm gonna follow God, you know. I don't want to be no more disobedient than I already am, you know. So here I am. I'm like, Toya, my wife Toya, she's beautiful, by the way. I'm working a part-time job, and the end of 2017, which was a tough year for us, she says, you know what? I want you to quit your job and focus on your business full time. I was like, okay, so now we're down to one income. And we're trying to, you know, I'll say, so what we're going to do? Let me tell you what we did. Y'all ready? Come close. I'm telling you, seriously, this is what we did. I said, from prayer, and look, don't judge me. Don't judge me, all right? So I tithe a little bit of money to my business every 2 weeks. I treated putting money in my business equally to a tithe. It was an act of worship for me. All right. We still tied to the church. Don't get it twisted. All right. Look, I don't want anybody thinking, but what I'm saying is I treated my business like a church. Right. I'm a Christian. I'm a priest. So if we can tie to God, to a church, and we can see God do wonderful things to us, and we can see the church grow because they were managing God's money correctly. Right. So I'm like, wow, okay, I'm seeing God's work. Why not apply the same spiritual principle to my business? So what we did was we just took, I didn't say 10%, give me 10%, right? You know, I'm like, look, I ain't equal to God, right? I said, but what about 5%? And my wife is like, okay, cool. So against Dave Ramsey, because Dave Ramsey, he would say, don't start your business until after you get out of debt. So this is why he will be getting on me right now. But he might be proud because the business is growing, right? So I took 5% every 2 weeks of our income and put it into the business, $190 a month. That's how I started my business 5 years ago. And it wasn't the podcasting business. This was just a radio station. And I took that $190 per month, and that's how I afforded the website. That's how I afforded social media marketing. That's how I was afforded to create the blog. That's how I was able to own my business, get the sole proprietorship and convert all that and create the business. Anything that I needed to do, business cards, gas in my car for business, meetings and stuff like that. If I needed to buy a tie or whatever, some shoes, whatnot. If I needed to take someone out for lunch, for a meeting, coffee, whatever, really Starbucks. I was like, let me tell you, when you're first starting out, don't do lunch meetings. Do not do lunch meetings. Like you're saying like, hey, let's do lunch. You're going to be on the bill for your plate and their plate and whatever they drink and whatever you drink. But if you say, hey, let's do coffee for all your meetings, then you're only on the hook for just your coffee and their coffee. No one goes back for 2 coffees. And I was able to, have my business meetings. I saved money. So my $190 a month, I only spent like 35, 40% of that a month. And I was rolling that money over. And that's how I was able to kind of grow a little cash flow for myself. I was like, oh, I have cash flow with no business, but I had cash flow. And I was able to purchase things. I was able to use that as leverage. And the next thing I know, when I finally have a service that I was able to sell, this is 4 years later. It took me 4 years to figure it out, by the way, because of business. The first couple of years, whenever someone says my business blow up in 18 months, that's an anomaly, all right? But I'm not building like a sole proprietor business. I'm building like an Amazon. I'm building like a Walmart, right? So it's not an 18-month deal to build listenerships for a radio station. It's not an 18-month deal to build a clientele for podcasts and to get advertisers and to build a community of people for your newsletters and text messages and stuff like that. We were doing events and stuff like that, right? So it takes time to build, an actual organization where you may be hiring hundreds of people in the future, right? So I'm doing this and I'm building this, I'm saving money, I'm rolling money over. So now it's time for me to really start my business when I created the podcasting services. So now I had cash flow from my deal. I had money to create marketing dollars. I was able to hire a marketing team, all because I was tithing 5% into my business over a 4-year period. So people who always say, hey, how can I start a business with no debt? How can I start a business and I don't have a good enough credit to get a loan or a credit card? I say, good. I'm glad you don't have the credit. I'm glad you don't have whatever it is. If you have a job or you have someone like my wife, I call her my sugar mama at the time. She was my sugar mama. If you have someone that loves you, I say only your wife can do that, by the way, or your husband, right? Not a girlfriend or boyfriend. Like that will fail miserably. But if you're one, then it'll work. Then treat your business and work, as an act of worship. And that's what I did. So I know it's a long story short, but you gave me an hour. So, hey, we hit.
Yes, sir. And it's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Now tell us more about your experience with mental challenges.
Oh, you're going in deep.
Yes, sir.
My psychologist.
Yes, we are walking with the audience.
You're going in deep. So my mental issues. All right. Listen. All right. So look, like I told you about the fear and all that. So it's like, for me, like, fear was only a part of the deal for me, right? I'm going to be transparent with you because it's you and I'm walking with you, all right? So I had like some deep insecurity issues. And I know like fear is like the root cause of everything, right? But you can't overcome fear unless you know how, unless you can see the symptoms, right? Because you don't even know what your symptoms are. And sometimes you have like a major symptom, right? And so what I've had growing up was insecurity. And that was like the major symptom that I just ran across with all of the time. I'm insecure. I can't be in front of the TV cameras. I can't be on stage. I don't like being in public places. When I get nervous, I start laughing a lot, and I become a funny guy. I'm insecure about the way that I look. I'm insecure about, I have a funny walk. My wife says I have a funny walk. She said I worked on changing the walk. Like she said, I had like this bounce in my walk. And I was like, what do you mean this bounce? She said, it looks like you're getting ready to like run, like you about to like run a track meet or something. Like you have this bounce, like you're kind of half skip, half walk. So took years. We've been married for 10 years in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we've been married for 10 years. Known each other for 14. It has taken me 12 years to change this walk so that I can feel more secure about myself. But anyway, but I mean, I had like a lot of insecurities, like, really just like physical insecurities, And so a lot of that also kind of perpetrated with perfectionism. So a lot of people who are like perfectionists, you may be insecure, could be a symptom that you may be battling, right? So a lot of people who are visionaries, a lot of people who have, these ideas, creatives, business owners, we're creating something, we're trying to build something. A lot of us are also perfectionists, and that's a cover up for insecurity. So you have to kind of get all those layers out. So you can't just say fear without knowing what your symptoms are, because sometimes your symptoms are masked. So my insecurities just kind of kept me from, it was weird because I'm in the music industry, but I was insecure about being in front of people. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't even like being around people. So the biggest thing that I had to do was overcome my perfectionism, stop being perfect, which was huge weight off my shoulders. So I had a previous business before where I would not sell anything until my website was perfect. I would not try to market my business unless my website was perfect. And you're out there. I know you're watching this, and I know you're hearing this. You're there. You won't sell your shirt until that design is perfect, right? And my thing is this: you won't know. First of all, it's never going to be perfect. You're always going to want to make a change, and ultimately, this is what I had to learn to overcome being a perfectionist. The people who you're serving are going to be the ones to tell you what's good and what's not good. So it's better to put your product out to get the feedback than it is for you to critique your own situation. Let them critique you. Get you some beta clients. Get you some practice customers. Go ahead and put it out there, because that feedback is going to be used to help you grow your business. So that's one of the things that I did to overcome my mental blocks was, you know what? My website looks like trash, but I'm going to put it out anyway. You know why? Because 90% of the people don't put out anything anyway. 90% of people who dream sit down and do nothing. So I'd rather put out a trash website and be amongst the 10% of the people who are doing well. That was my idea to get rid of this perfection issue that I had. And when I got rid of that layer, then that's when I realized how insecure I was. I'm so insecure I wouldn't be in front of TV, but I get behind a microphone. And I was in radio for over 10 years. It's like, that was weird to me. I won't be in front of a stage, but I can talk to 100,000 people on a microphone here in Dallas, when I worked at K104. But I can't be in front of people with 100,000 people. Now, granted, it's 300,000 eyeballs looking at you. But I realized it's like, look, it's my personal appearance. I don't like my personal appearance. So then I realized that was that symptom. So how can you get over your insecurities and you have your personal appearance? Well, guess what? Iron your clothes, get a haircut, put some lotion on, put lotion on your face, whatever you need to do, put on some makeup, whatever it is, but that you need to do just to kind of say, hey, you know what? you know, there's some unique things that you can do to, you know, jazz up yourself a little bit, right? But you don't want to do too much, because ultimately what I had to do is something that me and my cousin used to say all the time. That's just what you look like. There's nothing you can do about it. You know, so at the end of the day, you know, I was like, okay, I can at least make sure, you know, I groom myself, right? And that's really what I'm saying, is just make sure you're well groomed, right? Because you don't want to be sloppy. And then after that, I just had to get comfortable with, hey, this is how God created me. This is the way I look. And I'm just going to lean on his confidence in me and grow my confidence in that space. So now I'm a work in progress, but now I'm in a position where I can at least get in front of a Zoom interview.
Doing amazing.
All right. Long story short, there it is.
That is very inspiring. Thank you. Now, how important is your relationship with God?
It's everything. It's everything. It's like my relationship with God is to the point where you will probably think it's strange. Like if you wasn't, like you would think it's strange if you're not a believer, but like if you're a believer, you get it, right? But like there are people who say they're Christians that may see the relationship and say like, you're doing too much. Like, okay, like I'll give you a story. Like there was a lady who was talking about her relationship with God, right? And she said that she had a hard time figuring out what to wear to work. And she just went in her closet and she was like, I don't know what to wear. I don't know what to wear. I'm confused. And she's like, you know what? I just went to Jesus like and prayed. It was like, can you help me figure out what I need to wear today to go to work? Right? Now, people would see that as weird, right? People he may maybe classify as Christians may see that as weird. But to me, I'm like, that's the kind of relationship I have with God, right? And now let me break it down to you with her illustration for people to make sense for those who may think that's weird. Because she could have called one of her girlfriends, took a picture or Facebook or did a FaceTime live and gotten their advice and leaned on their advice for something that she needed. But the fact that she took something that was considered mundane to lean on God for, to me, that lets me know that when it's something very tough, who's she gonna call first? She ain't calling her friends first.
God.
She's gonna lean on God first. So that's the reason why my relationship is on that level where I'm thanking him for a bottle of water. Like, you know, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm laying in the bed. I'm like, oh, this pillow is, you know, like, thank you. Thank you for everything. These sweet peas that I'm eating, I don't even like sweet peas, but I'm glad they're nourishing my body. Like, you know, like I'm thanking him. Like my wife had me going vegan for like 4 months and I was struggling. I was like, oh, thank you for this vegan meal and pleasing my wife. My wife is, look at her. She is happy, you know? And then we finally got off that vegan meal. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I'm eating a hamburger and some ribs again. Woo! My wife is still happy, you know? So like, those are the things that, you know, I have for my relationship with God, and he's everything in my life, because when the going gets tough, he knows I'm going to go to him as well. And I've seen him manifest himself from the spirit into the physical realm too many times for me not to have that type of relationship with him.
That's right. And when you and I spoke recently, we discussed how when God shows up, as my friend Daniel likes to put it, he shows out.
Yes, he will show out. But let me tell you something. When you claim God in Christ, and God, he has to claim you too, by the way, right? So when you claim God in Christ and God has claimed you as well, not only will he show out in good times.
Talk to us.
But look, no, I'm going to say something off key. We've been on this meeting for like this interview for like 30 minutes now. You know I'm going to say something. Look, all right, look, he going to show out on the good times. But let me tell you something. You know, this is how you know you God's child. When he show out in your discipline.
Talk to us.
Come on. That's when you know he's your father. Because see, the thing is, God is always going to bless you and you're going to feel great. You don't even have to believe in God. He's going to bless you and you're going to feel great. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you be looking at people that don't believe in God and they got like more money than you. They business booming better than you, you know? You know what I'm saying? But let me tell you something. When they go through discipline, you know who belongs to God and who don't belong to God. You see what I'm saying? Like you know it. You know it. So my thing is this. I like to say, hey, God has blessed you. But I want to say God has blessed you when I see you struggling and I see how you walking through that struggle. When you do something you ain't got no business doing, let me see how you walking then. You know what I'm saying? Then that's what I'm saying, like, oh my gosh, that's a brother or sister in Christ right there. And that's what I look for, you know, in this world that we live in today.
Amen. Wow.
Yeah.
That is very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that, Ahmad. Now, was there a time in your life journey where you experienced an aha moment?
Every day. No, I'm just playing. Look.
Good answer.
I'm just playing. Like, I have an aha moment every day. Like, a light bulb went off like recently, like, cause I'm ignorant, right? So light bulbs always flash. It's like, oh snap, you know. But I know what you're really asking. Though. I know what you're really asking. So you know, all right. So okay, an aha moment. Actually, I want to give credit to my wife with this most recent aha moment because I do have a lot of aha moments. But to answer your question specifically, I think I know it all. All right. And I've been like that since forever. And God's known it, right? So I studied so much with this media industry and et cetera, that like this new age of media, I'm really not surprised, right? Social media, podcasting, YouTube, or whatever. And the only thing that's holding me back, and this is the grace of God, the only reason that's holding me back from having an ego is because I haven't had the same level of success as people who jumped into my media with no experience at all. You know, it's the person who gets on YouTube and they go viral, right? It's the person who's a great public speaker and they have a podcast and they have 65 million downloads, right? So that keeps me humble, right? That keeps me humble. And then I sit there and I'm like, why is it that I've studied this and I haven't reached those levels, whatever? And the reason why is because I've never been consistent with anything in my life. Never been consistent with anything in my life. When I want to pursue a dream, I pursue it. Once I reach it, I'm good. I fall back and find something else. I'm like a serial dream chaser. But I've never sat down and said, I want to take my craft and shoot for a certain level of excellence. Never in my life have I ever wanted to do that. Never, because I've never been materialistic. I've never been seeking fame or anything like that. But because there are other individuals who have those types of desires or who just have better focus than me, you know, they set their goals higher than me. How about that? So that's the reason why that I have like this gap between me and them. So here's my wife who comes to me the other day and she's like, you know what? This is what you need to do to go to the next level. So I'm just like, I already know how to do this, that, and the third, whatever. But my wife, she is really persistent. She is the embodiment of being consistent because she will knock on my door until I answer. And she's like, can I have some bread, please? Right? You know, she is like that type of person, right? So she is like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is for like weeks. And she's trying to get me to watch this coaching course or whatever. And I'm just like, you just want me to pay for something. Like, I already know this. I don't need to learn this, right? So here I go. This is a coaching course for marketing, right? And she knows this is what I'm trying to do right now. I'm expanding my business. I'm looking to market. Here's my aha moment. I'm sitting here looking at this coaching course, and this is someone that's 10 years younger than me. I'm getting mad. And and she's talking about things that I've researched before. But the thing that she is doing that I'm not doing is exactly what I mentioned before, is she is consistent. And the system that she has created that I am going to purchase, thanks to my wife, is a system that's going to allow me to do something that I've never, ever done in my life before, which is to stay focused on one thing and delegate it to someone else and allow that one thing to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. Because I will hit the reset button, I will clear the table, I will start over. So my aha moment in life is the reason why I haven't been successful to the level of where I've seen success with other people, because I've always been successful, to what I imagine success. But now I'm reimagining success for me, and I'm seeing it within others, and now I'm learning to use those techniques. So that is my huge aha moment. That's hopefully, if God sees it the same, I should be hitting those stratospheres in the next 18 months. It's going to take me 18 months like everybody else.
That's right. On to the next level. I love it.
Right.
Now, Ahmad, what is your best advice to the audience for walking with purpose and living a life of happiness?
Talk
to us.
I think Black Panther, he said it really good. Like Chadwick Boseman, I saw a video of his the other day. I don't even remember where he was. I think he was doing some type of press conference, like right after Black Panther, had, just shattered records or something. I don't know. But I just saw the video for the first time the other day. And he was talking about purpose. And I realized this is something that he talks about a lot to people, is purpose. And I'm always looking to see, are you a Christian or not? Like, are you going to give it to God or whatever, So I'm watching this video like, wow, like not only am I hearing him talk about purpose, because he embodied that, obviously, right? He definitely lived out his purpose in his short years here on earth, right? And the fact that his main message everywhere he went to was purpose. And he said that you cannot have purpose. I'm paraphrasing. This is how I took it. But he said, you cannot have purpose without God. And I was like, I'm saving this clip and I'm going to send this as a newsletter to my team or whatever, to my community, because like, that is exactly it. You cannot have true purpose outside of God.
Say that again.
You cannot have true purpose outside of God. You got people in the back. I need to say that too.
Amen to the audience. They're listening. One more time. Come on.
You cannot have true purpose without God.
I love it.
And it's so true, because you think you have purpose in your life, but without acknowledging God, it is not really purpose. You're just going with the emotions. You're just going with the wind. You're just being blown here and there, because if your motivation for purpose is for anything outside of God, then your purpose gets destroyed with whatever the motivational tool that you're using. It gets destroyed at the end of the day, because none of that is going to hold up to court for evidence of your life here on earth. That's why you can't have purpose without God. Because when God says at the end of your life, he's going to say, what did you do for me? And you're going to say, well, I did this, I did that. I fed the hungry. I gave money. I did all of this. And they're going to be like, well, who did you do it for? I did it for kindness. I did it for gentleness. I did it for love. I did it to save the world. He's going to be like, that is not purpose. You just went with the wind. And the wind doesn't exist here. or if the wind does exist, it's not the same type of wind you're used to. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you think that's air you're breathing in heaven? That's a line from the Matrix. Come on, man. Can y'all get that? Come on.
Let go and let God.
Yeah, so you just got to let go. So the thing is, anything outside of God is not purpose. It's just activity. It's just work. But anything that you're doing within God, any type of work that you're doing within God, now that's classified as purpose. It's kind of like marriage. If you're married and it's not with God, it's not really marriage. It's just two people together fornicating. But if you're married by God, then it's two people together as one. You can't change marriage laws because God is the one who created the laws of marriage. Does that make sense? So yeah, you may call it a marriage, but not in the eyes of God. When you go to heaven, he's gonna be like, no, you wasn't married, you were just fornicating.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Rashad. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. I appreciate you for sharing your story, your advice, your tips, and for sharing your humor with us. I love it. Now, where can the audience find you, Ahmad?
Oh, no, I'm hiding after this. Like, I'm going nowhere. I'm going, nope. You cannot find me. You're not going to see me, no hate email, none of that.
No, only love. They'll only send you love.
Yes. No, okay. So you can find me on Instagram at Ahmad Rashad _podcast coach, or you can go to my website at power77studios.com.
Absolutely amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out Ahmad at www.power77studios.com. And Rashad, thank you so much again for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. You have a blessed day.
All right. God bless you. Thank you very much for having me. Take care.
You too. Bye.